Good afternoon, everyone. We're discussing Alfresco reporting this afternoon. Francesco, Matthew, and myself will discuss our solutions for reporting against Alfresco. Is anyone using any kind of reporting against Alfresco? Any stuff, homemade or other? One. You don't count. Three? Three. Okay, I think you should, because you implement the system, you have some use of it intended, and I think you want to know if you actually meet your goals. IT typically wants to know how many users log in, what is the last time people logged in. You want to know if your application is used correctly, which are my champions, which use it perfectly, and which people need some more stimulation, education, or whatever attention. And I think you can do so by measuring. You have to measure to know, and if you have measured, you can improve or prove that you're right or have to change something. Today, we have three solutions with all a typical approach for reporting against Alfresco. The ARRR solution of Francesco is starting from the BI point of view for reporting. The Evo reports from Matthew is starting in Alfresco for straight reporting against Alfresco. And the Alfresco business reporting solution is somewhere in between. And there are different approaches to get your information out of Alfresco. I'm Tjarda, Peelen. I work for Incentro. We work in the enterprise information management area, web content management, BI, search, and document management. I've been using Alfresco since the 1.2 version and implemented the 1.4.2.0 at a government agency in the Netherlands. Last year I did my homework and got certified, and 2 years ago I started with the business reporting module. And I think, first of all, we need a reporting database, because Alfresco is a nice bowl of fruit. It's juicy, it has vitamins, even some cream on top, but it's really hard to know what's in there. There's no easy way for a business to create business-relevant reports out of this beautiful bowl of fruit. So what we actually need is we need to have a countable list of items in the repository. You need to know how many apples are there, how many bananas, and if the balance is all right, your business is going well. But you can't tell from your nice bowl how many bananas are there. So we need a reporting database in the domain of the business to be able to create reports. And it would be nice if the businesses would be able to create their reports. Then they don't have to call us all the time. How? Simple and smart, of course. The Alfresco business reporting module does actually two things. The first one is it extracts information from the Alfresco repository into a reporting database. It's a cron job-driven action. It actually gets metadata in the reporting repository. And from there, you can either leverage your existing BI solution or reporting platform or whatever you already got in place. And sometimes, especially in my use case, I needed to have reports back in Alfresco, because they have their permission structure in Alfresco. They have external people in need for the reports that are no way have access to the existing reporting solution. So the reports, I can store them back in Alfresco. I call this harvesting. If you install the AMP, you will get a harvest definition where you can define what kind of objects you want to harvest. For example, the obvious document folder-like things. I call it query tables. We'll get into that in a few minutes. Your auditing framework output, you can have these named auditing applications and put the results in the reporting database. User group information, so you know which people belong to what side, in what role. And I export the categories if you want to, so you can use them in all kinds of reports. I made a distinction between harvesting more frequent and harvesting less frequent. Because, for example, objects with the last modified date or the auditing framework, there is this last modified date or another date. So you can harvest only stuff that has been changed since last successful run. So if you run it every quarter of an hour or every hour, you can do it frequently with little overhead on your system. For user group information, for example, it's really hard to determine what has been changed since last time you run the system. So for this particular types, I just drop the table and recreate everything from scratch, which is nice in a small environment. With 100,000 users, you don't want to do it every quarter of an hour. It's too much overhead. The queries you can create is where you can create your own business domain in your reporting environment. And that way the business is able to understand what's in there and what kind of reports to create because they understand their own business domain. For example, a named query called folder, then I create a table dynamically in the reporting database called folder, and it will get all kinds of columns. It will get actually all columns that are properties in the result set. So it refers to the result set, and there's name, title, all the stuff you probably will find. And it will be added as columns in the reporting database. And for example, the second one, the query called document, I create a table called document, and I put in there all content objects, but not the output of the reporting tool, because it doesn't make sense for my business problem. But if this document happened to have this effectivity aspect, I add the columns on top of it that appear in this aspect. So if you change your model over time, the reporting database will be changed over time too, and will be updated according to how you happen to use the system. So if your domain is not your bowl, but nice the park and umbrellas and towels, you get a reporting database that actually meets the domain you're in. So your reporting database will be of umbrellas, towels, people, and other stuff. So we'll adapt to how you use the system. If you execute the report, I have these 4 folders, like the hourly, daily, weekly, monthly folder, and you can just put in there a report definition. For example, a Pentaho report. I think iReport will work too, but I haven't tested it for a while because I like the Pentaho reporting structure of a kind of a zip-like file to store the master reports as well as sub-reports. And by using this master substructure, you can create nice-looking reports without too complex SQL. If you put your new report in one of these folders, it will be executed according to a cron definition, and the result can be stored somewhere, for example, in the reports folder, and can typically be stuff like PDF, Excel, CSV files that you can use to process further. But that's the easy way. You can make it more advanced because you can use parameters in your reports. And you can, for example, execute your report against a site, for example. So the report can be made specific just for a given site. So you can have all change documents for a given site. And you can actually store this report back into that site. And by having this mechanism, you can easily create reports with information only applicable for the people in the site. So if people don't need to know from each other's existence and don't need to know about each other's progress, you can quite easily have one definition and make the reports very specific for all your sites. You can do so by actually having the property sheet of a report definition, have a name, output format. You either select some space where you would put the results in, or you use the parameter substitution. And what you can do, you can define one level up, you can define named queries again, for example, all sites. And for each of the results from this query, you can execute this report. And you will substitute the parameter called site name by the CM name of the given site. And you can store it in the site and then document library report and whatever folder path you think is a good idea to store the report in. And this way you can quite easily make reports specific, for example, collaboration reports in a collaboration site. But if you have another query for a particular business problem, you can maybe find the sites by having a specific site preset. So you can have specific business reports against this business site. And the same you can do for persons. If you do a person query, you can actually find, for example, a report of documents someone owns and put it in his personal home space in Alfresco and store it right in there. A sample of a master report sub-report structure. It looks for all sites, some site metadata on the left, and some sub-report with some distribution of roles, and maybe a contact list. So everybody collaborating has his contact list available. And it's one definition, and it's unique for each and every site. People only know within that site what the contact details will be. Someone in Canada is using Alfresco to actually have things like teachers, projects, and subjects where schools can kind of hire a teacher for a given project. And it's all kind of metadata driven to actually administer this whole process. And they use the reporting to get an overview of all the schools and what kind of presentation they actually required. An overview of all the teachers, what kind of subjects they can teach, and how to contact the people. Or, for example, for a given project, what is the current hours available and hours run. So they use reporting to get an overview over one or more metadata-like structures in Alfresco. This is the high overview. There are all kinds of technical details. I don't want to bother you right now. If you're interested, you can either go to the site in the Google Code. There are all kinds of pages in the wiki describing the details, or on my blog, where there are many tutorials supported with all kinds of screen cams in YouTube on how to create reports, how to configure the system, how to get it up and running, and how to get your results there where you need them to have. If you need to contact me, the usual ways to get in touch. And I think I hand over to Matthew.
Hi everyone. My name is Matthew Patin. I'm here to talk to you guys about integrating Alfresco with Jasper reports. I'm really happy to be here, and well, I think we're a little short of time, so I'm going to get moving here. Okay, so our data is not a one-way street. We spend a lot of time and effort helping our clients get their data into Alfresco, and I think Tjarda was talk about this quite well. It's very important that our data be available and easy to access to our clients. It's a big deal. Like, it should be just as easy to get our data out of Alfresco as it is to get it into it. And sometimes it's really not the case. So what I'm gonna talk to you guys about is making this getting data out of Alfresco as easy as possible. Okay, and I really think Jasper is a great tool for making that happen. So about me, like I said, my name is Matthew Patin. I'm a developer and project manager at Evoltia. We've been around for a while. We've run into this problem over and over for a long time. We're actually the oldest Alfresco partner in Spain. This comes up so often for us that we actually, more than a year ago, we decided to do something about it. We decided to develop an add-on. It's called Evo Reports. It's been in development for more than a year now. It's available on the add-on site, and developing this has been a great experience. It's been really interesting, and I think we're all very pleased on the dev team about how it's gone. And so we sat down and we started talking about what we wanted to get out of this add-on. Like, what do we want to do with this add-on? And really, our first goal was to make it easy. It needs to be as easy as pie. I think most of you guys know this expression, but. So talking about how can we make reporting easy, I mean, it really, what stood out is that, to make reporting easy in Alfresco is you got to keep it in Alfresco. You got to make it as Alfresco as possible. And what we found, and I'm going to show you how, is that Jasper is like this missing slice that you can kind of just drop in and turn Alfresco into like a real industrial reporting solution. And so also talking, we're talking about what we want to do with this, and one of the other things that really stood out is that we wanted to use the Alfresco stack. We didn't want to have to install middleware. We didn't want to have to install extra databases. This was a big priority for us because we want it to be easy to maintain for our clients. A client asks for a report, you don't want to be like, oh, sorry, I got to install like some crazy database to get like a quick PDF out of your Alfresco. So this was a really big priority for us. Another thing was we wanted it to be easy to install, so we packaged it as an AMP. So you got one-line installation. We wanted to use our Alfresco know-how. We know Alfresco. We know how to move around in Alfresco. So let's develop this in such a way that takes advantage of our Alfresco knowledge. And we wanted to scale with Alfresco. We wanted to develop in such a way that as new Alfresco features become available, that they're easy to take advantage of. And finally, we wanted to keep it secure. And that meant for us, using Alfresco's APIs, not jumping over the APIs directly to the database, letting Alfresco's APIs take care of security for us. So how does this actually play out? What are the concrete things that we can do to integrate Jasper Reports library with Alfresco? Well, the key here is that Jasper reports are documents. They're JRXML documents. They're an XML descriptor that the Jasper engine uses to produce reports. So it turns out that Alfresco is pretty good at taking instructions on how to treat a file in a special way. So what we did is we took a look at what's inside our JRXML file, and to see what we can do inside of Alfresco, what we can use inside of it, especially when we're trying to work with these report files. Well, there's three main areas inside these JRXML files. The first is a query. It's typically like a SQL statement, and then there's parameters, which are, users are going to be feeding back into the query parameters at runtime, And then there's finally our fields, which are, our columns on our final report output. So starting with the query, it turns out that it doesn't necessarily have to be SQL. Jasper's quite flexible. And our stated goal is we're going to try and avoid attacking the database, and we're going to try and stick to Alfresco's APIs. So we had this real big eureka moment where we realized what we could do is we could actually extend Jasper to use Alfresco query languages directly. And so we could create adapters that let it run CMIS, FTS, Lucene directly in that query tag. And it's great because it's secure, because we're using the APIs. It's future friendly because if tomorrow we come up with a new query language, we can actually just make a new adapter and take advantage of it. And it can get to almost anything. And so we're making reports, we're pounding out reports left and right. We're really excited about it. And then we kind of hit a little bit of a speed bump. And it turns out that, of course, not everything is available directly from Lucene, CMIS. Stuff like groups, users auditing data, some of this stuff is a little hard to get to from the query languages. But then we had another big realization that we could actually even extend Jasper to use JSON as a data source. Alfresco recommends that if you want to get to user data, use the WebScripts API. So what we could do is actually use the WebScripts API as a source for our data source for our reports. And you know what? What's great about this, if you can't get to it with the WebScript API, you can actually just write your own web script and just open up the repository to anything that you need to get to. So moving on to the parameters. Users want to input directly from Alfresco form parameters. And so what we found is we could actually tweak the Forms SDK to present parameters from these Jasper files directly to the user interface. And then our fields, they really correspond to our Alfresco metadata. And so what we found is we could actually read metadata dynamically out of queries, feed it back into the JRXML file, and have custom metadata on report output. So here, I'm going to put it all together a little bit. We've got our JRXML file that can use Lucene, FTS, CMS, even JSON as a data source. We're showing our parameters from our JRXML files in the user interface through the Forms SDK. And then we're showing our fields, our actual document metadata from our custom model. OK, so our stated goal here was to make reporting easy. And this doesn't exactly look easy. It actually looks kind of complicated. But it's a tight integration, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of tell you guys a little story and kind of show you how this actually plays out when you get down and implement this in Alfresco. So enter our intrepid developer, Pedro. Pedro has got a problem. He has a really evil boss. And so Pedro, boss tells him, get those invoices in Alfresco. So he loads up all the invoices. He models them. He's really excited. He goes running to his boss, hey, I got all my invoices in Alfresco. And instead of giving him a high five and a raise, he says, get me a report on my desk Monday morning. And so, of course, Pedro freaks out. He runs back to his desk. It's Friday. He's going to either spend his weekend writing a custom web script to get data out of Alfresco, or he can actually try and install a reporting solution. So what he does is he goes onto the add-on site. He downloads the Evo Reports, the AMP, applies the AMP file in a snap. And when he starts up Alfresco again, he's got this new reporting option. And when he clicks on it, he's seeing all these JRXML files. These are pre-built JRXML files that get to almost anything in Alfresco. They come right with the AMP file. And so he clicks on a simple report. Here we're showing a form that's actually being shown by SDK, and it's reading parameters out of the JRXML file. He fills out a few fields, selects the invoice type, hits PDF download, and a moment later he's actually seeing the results. And so he snaps it off to his boss, and the day's saved. It looks like he's going to have a weekend after all. But of course, this is not enough for his evil boss. He's like, what about all that metadata I asked about? And so Pedro, it could be a problem, but actually what we've done is we've extended advanced search and turned it into a kind of report creation wizard as well. So what Pedro can do is he can run an advanced search report. He's already customized his advanced search for invoices. fills out a query, runs a search, and right from the search, he can actually start a create report wizard, fills out some basic information. And here what we're doing is we're reading the parameters that he put into the advanced search, and we're presenting them as options for parameters in the JRXML file that this is actually going to generate inside of the repository. Then he can go ahead and we read out the metadata that came in that search result, and we let him select his custom metadata and to be also created with the JRXML file. And he can set up grouping, sorting, all kinds of stuff. So a moment later, he's saving the JRXML file to the console. He takes a click on it, and he's got all kinds of custom metadata here. So he sends it off to his boss, and the data is saved. But now he's got another problem because his boss just he starts inundating him with requests for reports. He becomes a report addict. All of his coworkers get on it, and he's just like snowed under reports. So what happens is he can use the console, and he can start setting up folders and applying permissions and getting the right reports to the right people and try and make something kind of self-service for his users. He can also schedule reports. There's always someone who's so lazy they won't even click on a report, so he can get that report generated automatically and get it into the repository so they don't even have to fill out any parameters or anything. And he can even publish the report console because it's a standard portlet. He can publish it in his company's intranet, so he can have like a self-service solution without users having to log into Alfresco. So, okay, so of course, we're not going to, when we do this, when we built the wizard, we're not going to do everything that Jasper does from the wizard. It's impossible. Jasper's huge. It does all kinds of stuff. So when we were designing this, we also wanted to make sure that everything that we did to be able to connect with these data sources, with these query data sources, would work with standard Jasper tools. And one of the most popular ones is iReport. And so what he can do is, if his boss asks him for something that he's not able to generate from the wizard, he can go ahead and he can connect with WebDAV to the repository. He can find a report that he's generated in the repository that gives him a good basis for creating a new report. And he can go ahead and open it up in an iReport. So when his boss gets nitpicky about I want to see euro symbols on those invoice totals, he can go in, open up iReport, click on a column, set the formatting on it, hit save, and then goes into his navigator and clicks on the report again, and it's automatic through WebDAV, so he's just seeing the changes right away. And so he hits save, and oops, I went back. A minute later, he's got his nice euro symbols on his invoice total. We can do simple stuff like this, but you can dive in as much as you want. You can embed graphs, charts, subreports, do calculations, totals, anything that Jasper supports. It can run directly from the repository with these data sources. So the sky's really the limit. What I hope I've shown you guys is that using this kind of a tool, using Jasper, you can very easily, with a small footprint, make Alfresco two-way street. You can make it just as easy to get data out of Alfresco as it is to get data in, and you can do it using the tools and the things that you know. So that's anyone who's interested. You can get the add-on. We got documentation, demos, and it's very easy to use, very easy to apply. And if anyone's interested, we'll also be handing out pen drives with a virtual machine and a demo for anyone who's interested. So just come up and talk to us. The dev team is here. So, well, thank you for your time and your attention. All right.
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Hi, guys. So, that's it. Okay, hi, I'm Francesco, and I'm ECM and BI specialist, Italian ECM and BI specialist, and I'm here. I'm very excited to be here for the first time at Alfresco Summit to show you the triple AR solution that has been presented also to the Pentaho community meeting last month in Portugal. But let's start from the beginning. The last year, I was wondering, at the end of last year, I was wondering to find a module to analyze the Alfresco audit trail, because some client asked me to know who is the software, who is using the software that I'm paying for, which department, documents, which sites, and which resources are using. The first reaction to that request was a kind of fear, because Alfresco, we know, can track every single audit trail, but it has not a reporting system. And to be honest, it's not his job at all. So making some searches over the web at that time, the solution were in some cases a little bit tricky, in my opinion. And in other cases, I found the solution at that time not so close to BI principles. And this is my principal goal, because I want a solution very close to BI principle, because in my opinion, this is the correct way to obtain the main result. And I would like to discuss with you. So, after a breakthrough, I started to develop and to find a solution. The solution I was looking for had to be easy for the maintainers, first of all, easy for the end user. And easy for the maintainers because I would like to work together with my team very easily, very easily. Close to BI principle, as I told before, because this is one of the most important tasks for me to obtain the most advantages. Enterprise being ready to scale, for sure, being ready to scale, and because of the time to market without the need to redevelop the same things from scratch again and again and again. I don't know you or your experience. I'm bored to always the same things from scratch. I want something that is prepared, ready, and because in this case, this means bugs, long time to market, high maintenance, and so on. But let's go ahead. In that time, my question was how to reach that goal, which is the strategy to obtain that result. For sure, I wanted to involve the best solution in their respective fields. I wanted the leaders. And another thing is that I was looking for a stable solution with low maintenance, you know, and I'm bored to always redevelop the same things from scratch. And so I wanted a complete solution in terms of feature, and I wanted to integrate the solution, not develop things from scratch. Because in my opinion, the modern approach to software developing is integrating and not developing again from scratch. So again, let's see what the solution is. Okay, so as BI literature teaches, Alfresco is a so-called primary data source. And as a primary data source, Alfresco should generate data at a raw level, not something else. On the other side, the side of analysis, the Pentaho suite is one of the leaders of the BI solutions on the market today. And in my opinion, I know it quite well, and in my opinion, it's the natural solution to gather the open source solution like Alfresco is. Because of course, has an enterprise tool to extract, transform, and load data from every source to every destination, okay? And it has an impressive, a huge collection of analytic tools to develop impressive reports, dashboards, and even free analysis, we will see. So, RRR is the solution that integrates the two leaders to easily solve the customer problems. And of course, not to reinvent the wheel one more time. Okay, now that we know what RRR is, I would like to dive deep with one more question with you. But RRR is for audit data only? Of course not. At the beginning it was, but after a few weeks, I started to develop a new Pentaho plugin called CMIS Input. The plugin encapsulates the Apache chemistry library, and I know you know it, to extract all the available information from Alfresco and potentially from all the ECM compliance with that standard directly inside the Pentaho environment. Today, you can use the CMIS input plugin even out of this project, and I know that some of you are doing that, because it's directly downloadable inside the official Pentaho market. So, in practice, RRR, how does it work? RRR is mainly an automatic enterprise batch that imports data, audit data, and the documents and repository structure of your repository in a data mart developed specifically for this need. For the one of you that don't know exactly what a data mart is, even as we see in the correct way, it's a table structure. It's well known in BI literature. So it's a very used in business intelligence application to analyze data in a very powerful way. We will see how. We are going to see how. In practice, the batch mentioned before is a so-called Pentaho data integration job invoked by a command line, the way we can see there. It's very clear, as you can see. As you can imagine, the job could be scheduled very easily in a cron configuration and so on, and is completely under control of the Pentaho environment, being reliable, scalable, and even auditable itself. So you can audit the audit. OK, but let's go ahead. If the data extraction is completely automatic, one question more. What our user have to do to use the AAAR solution? What I have to do to use the solution? The answer is simple. Use the solution. Use AAAR to analyze your data. Use it. Don't know how it works. Use it. The AAAR provides embedded some dashboards, some reports, but they are only example of what AAAR can do, because inside the engine of AAAR, there is the whole Pentaho solution with its capabilities. OK, let's see it in action. Here we are going to see how to use reports, dashboards, and free analysis directly from inside Alfresco. Everything is accessible from a brand new item in the header menu, customizable directly in the Alfresco environment. Can't you see here? In the menu, you see the built-in analytics, but you could define your own reports or item in the way you want. So as a first dashboard, let's see the main one that is used as a hub of content. I would like to share with you that from this point ahead, what you see is directly inside the Pentaho environment. Can you see there from the URL? And the whole solution and completely specialized and transparent from the user. So the user don't know that he's using the Pentaho solution. Directly in the dashboard, you can pick up date period, as you can see there. And there are lots of configuration you can choose. Of course, one of the most detailed is the date range, where you can select freely the range of data that you want, of course. OK, that's all. This is your chart. This is your audit action divided per day. The main dashboard can show an aggregation of action and even a first evaluation of the repository composition. Do you remember I mentioned something about the audit action and the repository and document composition? Switching the chart, another aggregation is showed with the number of documents in the repository divided per day, the yellow area chart, and the number of megabytes in the repository, the orange area chart. Here is an example where we can see the grow up of our repository during the time, in this case from the end of the year until now. Now let's start to interact with the dashboard, selecting a period directly in the chart and access it to a detailed dashboard that shows the audit trail with more details. In particular, the action per day, per hour. Here we see which hour are using our ECM, which actions the user are doing in our ECM, the user, and of course, the document. Of course, on each chart or table of the dashboard, the user can freely filter the action, developing its own personal analysis on the audit data. OK, this is a filter on the chart. But you can even filter the hour of the audit data in a really interactive way. By clicking on a user, a message box asks if you want to filter the data in the current dashboard or jump to another more detailed dashboard that specify the information for the user. In this case, we use the filter inside the same dashboard. Hey, that's me. OK, so this is a document I have attached. Same behavior for the document, where the user can click directly on a single item, receiving a message box with the choice to filter the data in the current dashboard or jump to a different one. In this dashboard, the audit data are shown per day, here, per hour, very similar like the other dashboard, per user, and even we can filter freely the information on actions, on days, remembering the filter, of course, and even for hours. Great, another filter on a single user in the same dashboard in this case. Great. Talking about interactive reports, you can develop your own report very easily. Here is an example. In the Pentaho environment, you can freely develop your own report. In this case, you can download it in PDF, Excel, CSV, TXT, and all the formats that Pentaho is able to do that. In this case, we use the HTML format and even the Excel. So in this case, we can develop our own report and download it locally because in my experience, most of the time, the user wants to have its own report inside that environment. Okay, give me your business intelligence environment, but I want to download the data in the way I want. From a free analysis perspective, the involvement of a real pivot table tool in Pentaho is called Psychoanalytics, let us able to inquire the audit data and the repository structure in an interactive session. As you can see there, without knowing necessarily the report we want to analyze, we want to obtain, in this case, we can get the information in a table view, in chart, and we can move from the action to the date. So this is the action in the month, but we can change the point of view for the user that in a month made some actions, and we can see directly and dynamically inside the table. Here we can see directly in each month which are the actions on single documents, so the history of single document. Of course, we can filter information by user, for example. This is me. And freely add other filter, for example, only creation action on the whole repository. OK, that's not enough. I want in Excel, and I want it now. That's it. Download, package, and probably send to someone. I want to reuse that query. I want to reuse that analyze. I want to store the analyze inside the Alfresco environment or repository. I want to use in future or share with other people. OK, this is what. Here we choose a free analysis on the repository structure, not the audit data, where the knowledge worker is able to dive deep into. From example, analyzing the creators of content divided by date of creation, initially grouped by year, that's all. After I would like to dive deep inside the month of creation, but that's not enough. I want to dive deep more inside the month and want to see all the single day of creation of documents. I want to filter on a single user, that's me, what I have done in this month inside the repository, but that's not enough. I want to include that result in a presentation, in a PowerPoint, and I want this chart inside my PowerPoint. OK, last but not least, the capability to use 3 polyar analysis on mobile device and even by email. I'm proud of it, but this merit is also for the Pentaho solution, because integrating leaders, we obtain the most advantages. Walking to the end of the presentation, I would like to share with you some numbers, because we all love analytical numbers. But flying away, I'm very happy about the interest on that solution because of the numbers that you can see here. And for the future, I would like to improve the 3 polyar as an open source solution, a real open source solution. And I would like to improve also the CMIS input out of the box, but also out of the 3 polyar solution. Regarding the 3 polyar analytics, the interactive report solution that you have seen, I'm in touch with the Pentaho stuff to make it grow in some very interesting feature, but we'll discuss during the next months. Thanks to all of you, and now I call back the reporting guys if you have questions or something more. Do you have questions?
Are there any restrictions in the sites where you have a big Alfresco environment, in fact? Because one of the first courses in Alfresco I always learned was don't use Alfresco for reporting purposes because of the limitations in the results it returns, the time it takes to have permission checks and so on.
Is this for me?
For anyone who can answer it.
You guys have that problem at all, right? Because you're an outside database.
We have outside, at least to speak for myself, I have an outside database, and I have to work around for the limits of searches that limit
You can use it now in this way
or whatever.
for everyone.
So I work around it in an external database. I can do whatever, and it loads only the database server and not necessarily Alfresco. So I don't think I'm in that problem.
No, but not everyone is using a separate database. So are you running into that?
In our case, this was something that we've kept in mind from the beginning. And actually, all of our reports, they execute asynchronously. There's a queue. It's configurable. Even when you download a report, if it's a full report, it actually executes in the background. And we're using Ajax, and we notify the user when it's ready. And so we make sure that it'd be like the same. It's really using the search. It's using like a query, like a search query would be. So it's really a very similar load to like what a user would be doing when they're doing like an advanced search. And so we send it to the background and make sure that it doesn't take over the system. Okay.
So you don't really create a database, but Lucene directly, or?
Well, usually this works best with Solar. So that's also a consideration. If you want to scale, you can scale your if performance is a problem, you can actually scale your Solar installation and to take care of this. So that's where you get the best results because of ACL checks and stuff like that. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So one of you used Jasper, the other two used Pentaho. Why each?
I start? Okay. I use Pentaho because, in my opinion, it's, I told in the presentation, but I repeat, because in my opinion, it's the more closer solution to the Alfresco way of thinking. And I think it's most, I love Jasper, but I think it's the most advanced as feature, for example, for dashboarding, as you can see, and for other features like that. This is my opinion. My choice.
I think we went over that a lot in the presentation. It was about not having to install other databases and stuff. We wanted it to be really turnkey. And there's a lot of great, I see awesome things in Pentaho, but we want it to be as light of a footprint as possible, as easy to install as possible, and still be powerful. And that's what we found with Jasper.
I actually initially supported both because I only need reporting features and they can do both kind of good reporting. But since my time is limited, I focused on Pentaho because they have a more clever structure of sub-reports. They're all embedded in one zip-like file. And with Jasper, they all have to be relative against each other, stored somewhere. And then you have all kind of virtual file system trouble to represent your repository file path. And I didn't want to go there, so I took the easy way and the best packaged solution.
Actually, all your answers are based upon technology. What I really kind of expected was an answer based upon use cases. Are you really just solving 2 or 3 different types of use cases?
From my perspective, I need a standard tool for reporting that the business can operate. And I've been working with both of the tools, and I can operate both, and I don't know that much about BI. So from my perspective, they're both equally well. Then technology may decide.
I see the problem from the BI perspective. Okay, but this is a value, of course, and I think that the Pentaho suite together, because here we can see we are only able to see some little feature, some specific feature, is really complete because, as you know, Pentaho has a community version, community edition, and also an enterprise edition. So it's very similar from most point of view to Alfresco, and its capabilities are impressive and complete about integration, static, dynamic interaction, dashboarding, free analysis. It's a huge world. So this is the use case that I cover is like an example here, but in real life, Pentaho is able to cover most of the use case that a BI solution should have.
As far as the use case kind of perspective for us, we wanted like one-click reports. We wanted the reports to be in the repository, and I think you can get that with these other solutions. But it was really, we're going to probably be able to do similar things with both tools. But it was really just like the killer thing for us. It really took us down the Jasper path. I don't know. I think if you know Pentaho, maybe one of these other solutions is great for you. And if you know Jasper, they could also be pulling you that way. I think all these solutions are extremely powerful. And so, I don't know.
Okay, more questions?
Hello. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed the beginning of the presentation, so maybe it's a stupid question, but is there any, what is the price attached to each solution? Like for JasperSoft, there's a community edition, which is free. Could that be used together with Evo reports? Could you shed some light on that?
Yeah, actually, we're using what we're using is really the Jasper reports library, and so that part is it's free community software. So and then we're still kind of working out what we're going to do with the rest of it. There is because of the way Jasper licenses, a good part of this functionality will be open source and free, and then we're still kind of working out the details on that.
My solution is completely open source. You can download it in Google Doc. If you don't know how, call me, write me. I will help you. And from the feedback, I know that lots of people around the world, from South Australia to Brazil, I know that they are using in their respective fields. The question is always the same. How is my ACM is used? And so it's completely open. You can view the code if you want. I can show you. Also of the dashboard. Huh?
It's the Pentaho reporting is just the community version is freely usable, so feel free.
More questions?
More questions?
Yeah, we did discuss it during the keynote and also during the presentation this morning. This type of capability is what we're planning that for the next release, and actually the use cases are very important for us. You know, is it based upon workflow? Is it based upon just content analysis? Is it for end users? Is it for analysts? You know, so there's a lot of things. Well, we're asking questions at the event here. So we asked you guys asked the question earlier, how many people are currently using analytics and reporting with Alfresco? So can you raise your hand? Okay, so there's more people now than there were at the beginning of the session. Okay, and so I assume everybody in this room is here because they want analytics. Is that correct? Anybody here just because they're in the wrong room? All right, and let's just see a show of hands. Who is interested in end user reporting to give like a dashboard view or whatever? Yeah, and and who's doing it for you know, a more administrative reporting for things like cost analysis or for audit reports or something like that? Who? Okay, so good overlap, but fewer. So it sounds like it's primarily for end user types of things, I guess, is what I'm getting out of this.
I think there's a third category, just like the explorative kind of discovery. You don't know exactly what you're looking for, but you'll just find out.
Yeah, so I actually, that's the answer that I expected, was that you chose Pentaho because of the cube and the ability to slice and dice information. But yeah, so yeah, you did say that, yeah, you did bring it up. But the answer that came back was a technology answer.
Yes,
so.
from my perspective is I want to store the reports one way or the other back in Alfresco. And it's partly because the business needs it, because the business needs control only their part of their problem. Part it's IT that needs to know who did log in and who failed and who was there when. And part of it is just discovery of things. And the last part I don't support because there is a reporting database and feel free.
Yeah. Or
use some other tools.
Okay, so who is looking for content discovery through analytics? So a few. I mean, once you start using it, I'm sure it becomes really addictive. and then finally, who is looking for report management? You know, just the output of reporting tools and be able to provide workflow for distribution or review or something like that. So just, again, a handful. Okay, right. Thank you very much.
Don't
John,
forget.
do you have any questions?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to understand how many people are really... Sorry. Yeah. So how many people are really looking to use reporting analytics to analyze their workflow, look at efficiencies rather than just content? Okay, so there's a few. Okay.
Thank you to all of you. We are here, of course, and around until tomorrow. Thank you again. Thank you.